What's good, y'all? Let's talk about something I truly cannot have any excuse for when somebody does this, and that's to have the victim mindset. Now, I'm a little heated about this. I can't lie right now. I'm really in the moment. That's why I turned the camera on and I'm ready to record because the victim mindset can be crazy and it can make you look terrible. Now, the reason I'm thinking about this right now is because the Los Angeles Lakers season just ended. I'm a Lakers fan. We had a terrible season. Things didn't go as planned, yada, yada, whatever. It is what it is. But they recently just had their exit interviews, and player Russell Westbrook, who had an extremely disappointing season. I'm educating my non-basketball fans, by the way. So if you already know what I'm talking about, you could skip to here in the video. But one of the star players on the team, Russell Westbrook, essentially had one of the most disappointing seasons of his career. He didn't really adapt to his teammates, had an underwhelming season in terms of his statistics, kind of just didn't lead to winning basketball. And although he played hard, he just didn't play well. And what he ended up doing in these exit interviews was essentially having the worst case of victim mentality I've seen in the media recently. And essentially what he was doing was blaming everybody else for his lack of success this season except himself. He was taking absolutely zero accountability for what happened this year. And honestly, I think that's the worst thing you could possibly do. For so many reasons. And I'll show you guys some clips of him just deflecting blame on the coach, the fans, literally the other players, everybody but himself.
I would probably say the only thing that was a problem or issue was with just the reception I got from people here, and for any reason, whatever that may be, whether it's the fans or whatever, wasn't so great. But I'm not sure what his issue was with me, or I'm not sure why, but I can't really give you an answer why we never really connected. Maybe, that's something that he has to answer. But I'm always having to prove myself again in the year after year after year, which is to me just unfair, and there's really no reason I have to do that. So when I first got here, I just felt that I never was given a fair chance.
So as you can see there, he's not owning up to anything that's happening. He's not saying, okay, look, I got to play better. I could have done this, done that. We didn't win, so the season was disappointing. I care about the team, yada, yada. I could have done this, that. I'm going to work on this in the offseason. He didn't say any of that. He said, I didn't have a chance. I wasn't fair. They hated me. I was getting death threats from the fans, yada, yada. Okay. And I don't want any of you watching this video to have that same mentality for any situation it is in life. Okay, now let me say something right here. Just because you're not to blame for a situation, right? Let's say something happened to you that is not your fault, right? It's entirely out of your control. Just because you are not to blame for what happened does not mean you are not responsible for how you react to the situation. It does not mean you are allowed to do whatever you want because of what happened to you, okay? You are still responsible. And it is still on you to choose how you react and respond to whatever it is that happens to you. Blame deflecting and being in denial are only there to provide this sort of mental high for you because you feel morally superior knowing that you've done everything right and just thinking that you're a victim of circumstance that you couldn't do anything about. We get in certain situations that are out of our control, or certain things happen to us that cause emotions within us, and because of that we feel like we are okay and it is fine for us to respond emotionally to these situations when that in fact is not the case and shouldn't be the case. We mishandle these situations by acting strictly off emotion and using emotion to justify our actions without having any reason as to why we did these things other than I felt like it or I was feeling this certain way. And while emotions I think are good because they can provide your brain with feedback for certain things that you have to do. For example, if you're feeling sad because you're alone, right? It signals to your brain, I should do things so I'm not alone, right? But that doesn't make it okay to break into someone's house and sleep in their house, right? Just because our emotions are signaling something to our brain doesn't mean we can act on them without any reason. A truly wise mind uses a mix of both logic and emotion to make decisions. And so where I'm going with this is that just because you feel something and something happened to you that was out of your control does not mean that you can't do something about it, right? Just because you're in a bad situation, you can always do something to make it better. And the way you handle it is going to say a lot about you and pretty much determine the outcome of the next step that you take, right? Let's take the most popular example that happened in recent memory as well. I already mentioned this Russell Westbrook thing, but let's even take the Will Smith example, right? It's not his fault that Chris Rock made a joke about his wife that he didn't find funny, or whatever the case is, right? It's not his fault that Jada got offended by what Chris Rock said, right? But it is 100% his fault and 100% his responsibility the way he reacted and acted in that situation. No one's going to blame anybody else. At least we shouldn't, right? He could have done so many other things. He could have yelled at him. He could have not said anything. He could have laughed back. There are so many things he could have done. He could have went to him after the show and said something. He could have called. Like, there are so many other possible things that you can do. And there's no justification for what he did, because at the end of the day, he's responsible for it. Nobody else is. You cannot control how someone else reacts. You can only control how you react. And you shouldn't feel justified. Oh, because they did this, no. Just because someone else did something doesn't mean you have to, right? I know the famous saying, if your friends jumped off a bridge with you, I wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, I was never that guy that would say, oh, hell yeah. You know, maybe as a joke. Yeah, me and my friends, we going bridge jumping. But, you know, it doesn't justify just because somebody did something to you or something happened to you, you can respond emotionally and irrationally and blame everything on somebody else, right? The reason our brain does this, the reason our brain tries to justify it is because, you know, we act out of impulse, and we get a certain level of a certain high because we can say that whatever the outcome is, it's not our fault because of this other extraneous circumstance that happened to us that caused us to do this thing, right? But at the end of the day, that's not how it works. You know, as much as the fucked situation you're in, you can always choose to do something about it and to make your situation better, right? I go to the park all the time to work on my basketball skills or just to shoot hoops or actually play games with my friends, right? And the park I usually go to, okay, I see this guy there all the time, okay, and he's teaching basketball lessons, okay. He's teaching basketball lessons to various different kids. Every time I go there, it's a one-on-one lesson, but it's a different kid. And this guy is on crutches, okay. He has one leg. I am not kidding you when I say this. This is 100% true. I don't have any video of this. I'm not going to film the man. You know, it is personal privacy, but it is how it is. This guy is teaching basketball lessons. He literally has crutches because he literally is missing a leg, okay? So, for what it's worth, he could have literally he would have had a perfectly valid excuse never to play a sport in his life because he literally can't move around like normal athletes do in these situations. But he's not a victim. He doesn't play the victim card, or he's not a victim of whatever happened to him. He chose to respond to that adversity by saying, fuck that. I'm going to continue to do what I love or do what I love regardless of the situation I'm in, right? There is always something you can do. Always something you can do. You choose how you respond. You choose how you handle that situation, right? And I'm not saying you're not justified in feeling what you feel. You could feel and internalize that emotion, but you still have to choose how to proceed, and you have to mix that emotion with logic and reasoning to get an appropriate response. Don't ever play the victim card. Don't ever use that as an excuse to justify what you feel is right. You have to look at yourself internally before you look at anybody else, okay? You have to see what you could do better, what you could change about the situation before you tell anybody else what they did was wrong or anything like that. First and foremost, look at yourself. Don't even point the finger at all. There's always something you can do. You can choose to respond to any situation however you want. You should never even feel the need to play the victim card. Never. Never, ever, ever. No matter what the situation, the circumstance is, whatever it is that you did, whatever it is that you messed up on, you should never feel justified in doing it. You can always choose how you respond to a situation, okay? Regardless of how bad it is, you have to take time, calm down, don't suppress that emotion, don't repress that emotion, don't hide it and don't deal with it. I'm not saying to do that, but internalize it and find the best course of action to take. Ask yourself these 3 main questions, and you will pretty much avoid ever playing the victim mentality and having the victim blame at any point in your life. Okay, the first question is you want to ask yourself is the simplest one. What am I feeling right now? Describe and label your emotion. There are emotion charts on the internet you can search up, which gives you just basically a list of every emotion, and you can kind of better define what it is you're feeling right now. So first of all, define what it is that you're feeling, okay? Second of all, Ask yourself, why are you feeling this way? What caused you to feel this way? What action happened? What occurred, right? Even if it's not your fault, even if it's an external source nobody could control, why are you feeling this way? Just basically find out what caused you to feel this way, okay? And thirdly, ask yourself, how do you want to move forward? Ask yourself basically those 3 questions, okay? What are you feeling? Why are you feeling this way? And how you want to move forward. And you really have to sit and analyze the best possible outcome, right? You have to play these scenarios out in your head, right? Like a movie clip. What if I did this? What if I did that? What would happen? What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? Really analyze these things before you act. Don't just act purely off emotion and then try to justify, oh, I was upset. That's why I broke my girlfriend's window and keyed her car. Don't do that. Think about the consequences that could have. And a lot of the time, you doing this stuff is going to lead to more problems and lead to you acting even more emotionally and being in a worse situation. If people just took the time out before playing the victim or acting out of emotion and thought about the potential outcomes of the things they did, or even thought about how they wanted to respond to the situation in the best way possible, we'd avoid a lot of issues in this world. Trust me. A lot of relationships wouldn't end as poorly. I could guarantee you that, because I've been in situations where things could have ended bad, but I kept my cool. As upset as I was, as mad as I was, or maybe as upset and mad as the other person was, we both understood that we don't want more problems. So we use not only emotion, but reason, and combine those two to respond appropriately in a way that doesn't make us feel like we're being stepped on and used and abused and we're just kind people all the time, but also in a sense that we're not making the situation worse and we're responding appropriately. Okay? Never play the victim card. There is always something you can do about your situation to change it, to make it better. Man, you could step away from it. You could block this person off. If that's what you have to do, go ahead and do it. But there is always something you can do. All right? Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. I love every single one of y'all. And I'll see y'all in the next one. But